At how to change the weather on purpose. That's right. Lasers now could one day manipulate rain and lightning. CBS This Morning contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at City College of New York. Professor, nice to see you. Extraordinary seeing Al Gore and Bill Clinton there together with Charlie, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, they did not get into this discussion,
no.
though. But it is fascinating. I mean, lasers, really, to change the weather?
That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. This is potentially a game changer.
But this is experimental.
It's experimental. However, in the laboratory so far it works. When you have water vapor and you have dust particles or ice crystals, you can precipitate rain. It condenses around the seeds. These seeds can also be created by laser beams. By firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning.
Go ahead.
Well, this fascinates me in part because, too, I remember reading the stories that China had used this during the Olympics, that the USSR had used this after Chernobyl to create rain clouds. I mean, did those really work then? We have some of these capabilities now?
Inconclusive. Even in the 60s, the CIA used this to bring down monsoons during the Vietnam War, to wash out the Viet Cong. Governments have been playing with this thing.
Alleged to.
Alleged to, right.
Yeah.
Now, we realize that for decades now, these governments have been alleged to have experimented with weather control, but nothing conclusive. This time we're bringing in the laws of physics rather than simply waving our hands and uttering mumbo-jumbo. We're actually using trillion-watt lasers now. And in the laboratory, sure enough, they precipitate rain out of water vapor. Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam.
So what does it mean for drought areas that need to have rain for crops, and if they don't have them, there's the consequences of famine?
Well, the bad news is if it's a clear blue sky, it's not going to do anything at all because it only takes water vapor that's already in the air and condenses it. However, for floods, for agriculture, farmers, for people planning wedding parties, football games, you name it, outdoor events and agriculture and flooding and even hurricanes, all of them could be subject to weather modification.
Incredibly interesting, Professor Michio Kaku. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, you just heard it from Dr. Michio Kaku, and that pretty much settles whether or not it can be done using frequency. He brings up high-frequency, trillion-watt lasers, and the experiments are already being done at much less wattage, 750,000 watts, let's say. Just one example of many. But now we're going to have to go listen to the doctor and their next portion of their response. And in this next portion, he brings up something which I urge you guys to read right here. Before you hear what he has to say, hear what Secretary of Defense William Cohen said in 1997, and here's the transcript in case you don't believe me from defense.gov. But let's go hear it from the doctor. Let's hear what he has to say. Let's hear his next question, quote unquote.
But the video that he's using, though, when he backtracks the formation...
Can you speak up, please?
Yeah, okay. Professor Dr. Lagmay, the video that he was using with the different colors, he backtracked the formation of the storm. That is legitimate. That he did not fabricate, in your thoughts.
I'm sorry, I could not hear you well.
Okay, we'll try to up the volume a bit. Going back to the video that he used to show the formation of the storm, that was actual video of it, what had happened in the past week. He did not fabricate that portion of the video?
I think he was getting it from the normal websites of some government agencies. And he was trying to relate all of these cloud formations to the microwave pulses that he was seeing. And he was just trying to demonstrate that such curves that would appear would come up or correspond to these transmitted pulses. But he must demonstrate that well. I mean, as a scientist, there's a long and rigorous process to demonstrate that microwave is related to the formation of all of these curves that he was showing and to the formation of clouds. And it's not just possible to come up with a Google image or video of what he was demonstrating, which is hard to test and hard to examine, and come up with incredulous statements about the relationship of these microwave pulses. It's just not possible in science. So as a scientist, I would prefer to first see the evidence. He must demonstrate it. It's an hypothesis. Everybody is entitled to make an hypothesis, but he must be able to demonstrate it well, clearly, and it must be repeatable.
Right.
As of the moment, there is no reason to believe this person.
Okay. He also, towards the end of his video, was sharing about his thoughts on weather warfare. I mean, obviously it shows that he's one person who seemed to have believed in this conspiracy theory that some superpowers in this world have felt that they've discovered ways to manipulate weather. Your thoughts on this kind of, conspiracy theories that technology even exists?
The closest that I know where I've heard discussions about it is climate engineering. There are research projects that want to test whether it is possible to inject aerosols and sulfur into the atmosphere. It's a project that was shut down by government because of public complaints. This project intends to inject SO2 and sulfate into the atmosphere, and depending on where it is injected, it will cool down the earth, and they say that it is possible that the amount and the location where you put it could control the climate in any particular region. So that's the closest that I know, and this one, the microwave theory or the conspiracy theory, has yet to be proven well.
Okay, well, here we go with the conspiracy talk again. And I do really take issue with that because I feel that the facts that are provided and the data that's been provided so far proves the facts completely. This is experiments have already been done, papers have already been written, and new technology is being developed to deal with these things. It's not a conspiracy. This comes from the Secretary of Defense, William Cohen, in '97. Others are engaging even in an eco-type of terrorism whereby they can alter the climate, set off earthquakes, volcanoes remotely through the use of electromagnetic waves. The United States is putting a whole bunch of money into it. We've built huge facilities, and we are not the only ones. Let's not lay this at the feet of the United States completely. We've got China, we've got Russia, we've got several other countries involved, and we've documented that over and over again. Is it a conspiracy theory? No. Dr. Michio Kaku just confirmed it. Here it is all the way back in 1985. He brings up geoengineering aerosols, and he lies and says that the aerosol programs are no longer in place and that they don't spray anymore. Those government programs were discontinued, he said. This is the doctor that you just heard. And that's a blatant lie. We've got the 2012 and 2013 current cloud seeding operations, and it's not for SO2 solar radiation management of sulfides. We're talking the spraying of silver iodide for precipitation enhancement. This is undeniable proof. These are companies that do it here in the States. Internationally, you guys are going to have to document this stuff in your countries. I can't do it all. I'm just doing it for here in the States to prove overall it's happening. Here's the NOAA weather modification form that has to be filled out. These are all .gov links. You don't have to take my word for it. You can go check each one of these links out. The current 2012 and 2013 cloud seeding operation schedules and lists we've already provided. Idaho Power, we have companies here in the States that spray to enhance the snow in the mountains so they can harvest that water to produce more energy in their hydroelectric plants. Colorado just passed some new laws regarding weather modification because they're spraying so much. Spraying silver iodide for precipitation enhancement, not SO2 for solar radiation management. There's been bills passed here in the United States to outlaw these things because they're trying to turn them into weapons. This is HR 2977. This is not conspiracy. They refer to even chemtrails in here. Weather mitigation bill to try and stop storms. There's multiple facilities built around the world that work in conjunction with each other, which I showed you in the first video. That's why I mentioned Stanford VLF to begin with. Stanford's taking part. VLF is just one portion of this whole frequency spectrum that they are manipulating and using to their ends, to certain means, to try and get things done. Okay? And we're talking from communication to weapon capability, anywhere in between. Now, in there, he says that, again, the government programs were shut down. I just showed you. Here's 2012, 2013 current operations. And then he finishes it off with, microwave conspiracies are not proved that HPM, high-powered microwaves, cannot induce weather phenomenon. Well, we have documented over 150 different cases of high-frequency pulses having a weather effect. If you don't accept those, you can come read the different papers presented, again, by the different agencies that prove that ionization, again, the stripping of electrons out of the atmosphere using frequency, produces CCN, which is the formation of cloud. They made it rain in the desert 50 times in Saudi Arabia. We have resonance technology being demonstrated to the U.S. government. Here's a company called Acquiesce. And I'll read this to you. I have a screenshot. This is from their PDF that they work with the U.S. government. And it says, over the past 10 years, the company Acquiesce has repeatedly demonstrated this technology to government and humanitarian observer groups. The proprietary weather modification system operates by utilizing resonance, and we're talking radio frequency, signals to divert oceanic atmospheric rivers into areas experiencing severe drought. The Acquiesce system does not rely on chemical or biologically hazardous materials, spraying of substances, which could potentially harm the environment. This is just one company of many that's doing it here in the States. The technology is proved. And that brings us in to the next video. Okay, so we're going to play this next video. It's from the Weather Channel, and they aired this just this past year, proving that microwaves can induce rotation. And they're talking about producing tornadoes. And they recreated the experiment in the laboratory, and it's a guy by the name of Dr. Slobodan Tepic, a dual MIT doctorate, that figured out that rotation can be developed using high-frequency microwaves. And he recreates the experiment in the laboratory using a small laser to simulate a high-powered microwave over a large distance. So outside, you would use a high-powered microwave. Inside the laboratory, you use a small little laser to heat the plate, and it simulates the outside. And it was a success. They covered this on the Weather Channel completely, which, let's go watch that next. After that, we'll get into the next portion of what the doctor said. So far, what is that? We proved him wrong twice now.